Amazon are going to pay the New York Times $20 million a year in their AI deal. So this is an interesting one because not Amazon, the New York Times are currently suing OpenAI, but Amazon have cut a deal with them. And I think Amazon, this is the first company to secure a deal with the New York Times. The New York Times has been a holdout in terms of AI training because they've been extremely against it for good reasons. This is an existential threat to journalists, but this is the first deal that has been cut with them. So what this means is Amazon are going to use the New York Times content to train artificial intelligences. Specifically, this will probably be for Claude. So Amazon own a large stake in Anthropic. Anthropic create Claude. They'll also be using this for their Alexa as well. Now, Alexa is AI. It's just it's natural language processing AI rather than generative AI. It's a different form of AI, but they're starting to bring them together. And all they need to do is basically shunt Claude into the Alexa and call it a day. But for some reason, they haven't done that yet. I'm sure they're working on it. So Amazon's deal to license a broad range of New York Times content comes with a meaty payday for the publisher, $20 million to $25 million a year. Now, the revenues of the New York Times, I think, are $2 billion a year. Let's check. New York Times revenue. Okay, $2.5 billion a year revenue with an operating income of $335 million. Okay, so they have a 10%, slightly more than 10% margin. What's that, 15% margin? I'm not going to do the maths here. So they have huge costs. So I imagine this extra 20 to 25 million a year is pretty nice because there's going to be no additional cost to that. So that's a chunky addition to their operating income. Yeah, because there'll be no cost. That'll be pretty much pure profit for that deal. So the financial terms for the multi-year deal offer a window into how publishers and artificial intelligence companies are valuing news content in the midst of a seismic change in how consumers seek information online. That is a understatement. Oh, here we go. The annual payments amount to nearly 1% of the Times' total 2024 revenue. Yeah, 1% of their revenue, but I think a higher percentage of their profits because this is pure profit, whereas the rest of their revenue, it looks like, is at a low margin, that kind of 15% margin. So I say that's low. That's not low for traditional businesses. It's just I'm used to online businesses and we have 80, 90% margin. So it is, the first AI-related licensing deal, pact, they've used the word here, for the Times and Amazon's first such agreement with a publisher. Okay, awesome. So I know that Amazon actually own the Washington Post as well. No, this is Wall Street Journal. They own the Washington Post. Already they're using the Washington Post data. Now they've got the New York Times. So what happened initially when these models were created was OpenAI and all the companies, maybe not Anthropic, but OpenAI for sure with ChatGPT, they just scraped all of this information. So scraping is you build a piece of software, a really basic piece of software that goes to websites, downloads that information, very basic stuff, very crude. You need to set timers and things like that, and it's simulated moving around the screen, etc., to trick the security program so they think it's a real human being. But the basic idea is just brute forcing the internet. You go and visit all the websites, you go and scrape every single website, a web page on the New York Times. You go and do it for the Washington Post, you do it for the Times. You just go and get all that information, you dump it into a database, and you're going to be using that in your training. So the first time ChatGPT, etc., did their training of 3.5, 3, and I'm sure 4, they just brute forced it and they grabbed all of this information without permission, including YouTube. Hence that great Mira Marathi meme where Mira Marathi, who was the CTO of OpenAI, she was asked, "Did you scrape YouTube?" And she doesn't want to lie, but she doesn't want to admit it. So she just pulls a face. Oh shit. That was her only reaction, which tells you, yeah, they 100% scraped YouTube. So what's happening now is all of these publishers, companies like the New York Times, like the Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, etc., are coming for the AI companies saying, "Hey, you scraped our content. We are really annoyed with that." So if you want to be generous, they're doing this because they want to protect the integrity of their information. They want to protect the integrity of journalism, and they think it's unfair, and they're protecting their intellectual property. Fine. If you want to be a bit more cynical, they're looking for a payday. And that is basically what is happening. Deals are being cut with each of these publishers, including places like Reddit. So Reddit was scraped en masse, and then Reddit cut deals with all of the AI companies. So what the AI companies are doing is basically they're not asking for permission, they're begging for forgiveness and then handing over millions of dollars. So they go ahead and do it. Once it's done, the publishers come to them and say, "Oi, what did you do? You stole our information." And the AI companies be like, "Oh, yeah, yes, we did. Here, do you want $10 million? Do you want $20 million? Let's cut a deal." And that is what's happening with each of the publishers one at a time. This is the first time the New York Times has acquiesced to a deal like this. I imagine there will be multiple. So they will now cut a deal with OpenAI. They'll cut, not OpenAI because they're currently suing them, but they'll probably cut deals with the other artificial intelligence companies. With OpenAI, they'll probably aiming for an even larger payout via their lawsuit. So this is just the economics of it. First, the AI companies steal. Then if the person they stole from is big enough to kick up a fuss and to take them to court and to do some damage, then OpenAI will basically pay them off and set up a deal like this. Sorry, not just OpenAI, all of the AI companies. So it's a bit of a racket, but that is the economic reality of what's going on right now.